Great, great, great. So as you wait a little bit more for more and more people to join us, thank you very much once again. And I'd like to just take a couple of minutes to introduce each other. There's a chat box here that you guys can use to share a little bit more about yourself. So if you've got any questions or anything you'd like to share, you can just say hi in the chat box and maybe tell me a little bit more about the brands that you are working for or the business that you're managing so that everybody get a feel of each other in this room. So I've actually spoken to a couple of participants even before this webinar started, and there was this opportunity for also them to share with me about the business that they're doing. So some of us are from the education background, right? And some of us are actually from media agencies or creative agencies that's managing a group of clients. We also have some associates from the businesses that we know that might not be directly involved in out-of-home advertisement right now. And they're just here today to just hear what's the next hottest trends that's coming out for 2021. So again, for some of those people that are just joining us newly, we're going to start in a couple of minutes time. And I'm just seeing if anybody would like to introduce themselves, right? Just say hi in the chat group and just share about the kind of business and the brands that you're working for right now. Is the chat group working? Can somebody say hi so that I get a bit of feedback as well? Great, Edwin. Thank you very much for joining us. And you are managing for Canon. That's a very good, an amazing brand. And thank you very much for your support for us. Very excited to share with you the 2021 trends. Anybody else? Great. So I think a bit of housekeeping rules. Okay. Yep. Thanks, Rina. Rina is from our Indonesian team. And we have a couple of officers as well, including from Indonesia, Myanmar, Philippines, and Vietnam. Okay, so just a few housekeeping rules here that I'm about to share. Anytime you guys can feedback over the chat group that we have here, and we'll be consolidating questions that we'll hold in a very small Q&A at the later session. So just feel free to type it in and we'll be able to consolidate the questions as well. So today, definitely, I'll be sharing about the next hottest trends for 2021. This has been a very eventful 2020 with only 13 more days to go. I'm really very excited that this year is finally coming to an end. So while some of the trends could be a little bit more complicated or hard to execute, don't worry, you can always talk to us later on separately that we'll be able to delve more into this at a later stage. So this is just a condensation of the trends that I want to share. And I'll be giving out some simple tips as well, so that even if your business is quite small or really big, there'll be some takeaway for you at the end of this session, okay? So a little bit about us, the Perfect Media team. We are here all about billboards and out-of-home media. You can see that we have some of our team members from Indonesia, Vietnam, that have joined us. We have full offices in these countries as well. We manage a number of digital and static billboards in these regions. So we have about 300 over locations as a regional, and some of them are what we call airport and ferry terminal media in the overseas region. Because we have our own in-house production and creative teams, we're also able to provide you some very customized and amplification of your outdoor spend. So I'll be sharing you a lot more examples as we go along. But for today's session, because it's a learning session as well, so the examples that I'll be sharing is not only just from the Singapore team that is doing from Perfect Media as well, but also what we call some best practices from some amazing brands out there, including some of the other out-of-home media owners, either globally or actually in our sunny island of Singapore as well. So this is a summary of the trends that we're talking about. And so without further ado, let's just get started, all right? Out of home is actually one of the most traditional format of media out there. It's been around, well, some people say like the caveman days, but it's also the out of home media that is now having the most amount of integration with technology, and nobody can run away from technology implementations today. So with the COVID situation that has started, technology is now a part of our everyday lives. So what we can see, even research from online players or online platforms like Facebook are also sharing this kind of information about how being online, having an advertisement on Facebook, and combining it together with an advertisement that's outdoor. When you synergize both of them together, you're actually being able to produce amplified results. So this synergy means that both works better than one of each alone. So definitely, even in the current trends, we see a lot of pure e-commerce players. One of our clients being Budget Direct Insurance. So this is a pure online insurance company. They themselves, you can buy insurance anytime over the internet and get in touch with their online agents as well. But they have decided to use billboard to create for them a physical presence. And a lot of e-commerce players need to create this kind of validity out there and also increase the visibility in the offline world. So for Budget Direct, they actually worked with us for about 6 locations 2 years ago, and they actually chose one of the locations to be extended based on the tracking URL of the feedback that they're getting from that particular billboard. So without doubt, online presence is very important for all brands. If the brand didn't start the online presence before, this is the year they have definitely started it. And they are using billboards and all other outdoor media to extend that thought presence as well. Another way of integrating technology together with your billboard is QR code. I don't know about you, but in Singapore, I've already scanned at least 6, if not 7 QR codes by now, just in one day. I'll be scanning maybe another 2 more before I reach home today. So QR code is inevitable. It's not just for safe entry. It's not just for filling an online declaration. There's actually a lot of connection points that you can use for QR code, right? So that could be a form that you are making, it could be a direction to the website or even to a number to call. So QR codes is one of the most simple way, everybody knows how to flip up a phone and just get connected immediately, right? For some of us, QR code, you say that, yeah, everybody has one. How can I differentiate further? How can I make sure that somebody scan, right? So you have to put in some kind of incentive for it, but QR code, that being said, you can also move towards augmented reality, right? So this is what we call the AR technology. So this is a little bit more innovative in a way. You're actually using a visual marker that doesn't really need to look like a code. So literally you can use an advertisement. So I'll just share directly on this video, whereby the marker is actually printed on a tabletop advertising in Pratawala. So just in case your prata took a little bit too long, maybe you have a very, very special order, paper prata plus the chocolate or maybe something, it takes a little bit too long, you can play a game, even if you're by yourself or with your friend, right? Just by scanning the AR marker into your phone. And this can be done either through a special app that leads to your website, all right, or into your own internal application. And recently, you can also use this on the Insta filter as well. So the magic about this, which I'd like to emphasize, is that static marker, whether it's on your name card, it's on your billboard, or is it actually printed on this tabletop itself, right? You don't need to change it. It's just a permanent marker that you can use. It could be a visual, it could be a logo. And what you can do later on with it is actually change out the back end, right? So we even have like people that's using the augmented reality to even like showcase what does it look like if I install this coffee machine, right? You can even see how it looks like in a 3D concept, right? Just by scanning this AR marker and looking at it through your phone, right? Closer to home right now, this is creating some buzz. It's by AMC, a local company in Singapore that is quite amazing. They did this graffiti actually on their wall. So they have upgraded or updated this graffiti that they're very, very famous for along the Bugis area. And this is what they've done. Right, so if you actually go down to Kampung Glam itself, to your naked eye, it's just a static graffiti. Very interesting and vibrant already. Very good for Instagram, very nice for just getting interactivity of it. But they put a layer of AR into it, so you can even see like there's some moving images. So if you can imagine this on the billboard itself, right, if you're putting this to showcase some of your athletes, you can even show them smiling at you, or, you know, just having some kind of very light movement there as being part of the billboard itself. So for augmented reality, this will be one of the hottest trends that will be coming out for 2021. Again, in terms of technology, programmatic ads is not something new to all of us in advertising itself, right? You are doing it on the online all day, in fact, all weekend as well. But what we see here is PDOH. This is programmatic digital out of home. So the concept of it is very simple, right? You buy a billboard or you buy a series of digital billboards, you can customize the message. So here, this is like a Food Panda equivalent in Europe, where they were actually using this to encourage different times that you can order food, whether it's afternoon or morning, and maybe for a Friday evening like this, you'll be like, why don't we have a romantic dinner together, right? So for two of us, we will just order. So your message can be customized on different days and different timings using that same space, right? So this is really something to look forward to as more and more media owners get into programmatic out of home. The technology is still quite I would say being developed right now, especially in Singapore. But as more and more people progress on this, you can see the momentum being built up as well. One of the executions that we have done for Bosch in Indonesia recently was this one that they worked with private car owners. So this kind of programmatic out of home is really quite fantastic, right? Because, you know, a private car hire like Gojek and Grab, they go all around the city at any time of the day. So what Bosch has done is that they have bought out all these advertisements. So it's constantly their advertisement. But as the Grab driver goes around different part of Jakarta, right? So if let's say they were in the industrial areas, you'll be showing more of the industrial spark plugs and so on. But if let's say in the evening it's going towards places like Peak or Senayang area, what they actually do was to showcase some of their Bosch dishwashers, Bosch washing machines, and the kitchen appliances. So this is a very good use of programmatic, not only just for food, logically speaking, right, but even for industrial B2B product like Bosch. So this was a really fun execution that we did for them in Jakarta, Medan, and Surabaya. So there are many, many ways that technology can play a part in out of home, especially in the year coming up. I can go on and on about this, but if let's say you would like more information, feel free to come to us at any time, because 5G is already here, blockchain is coming up, so many things to talk about in terms of technology and out of home. I just can't stop. All right, but we have to move on for time's sake. So I'd like to come to the second trend of static billboards. Right? And this is going to remain powerful, especially in a strong media clutter environment, right? So you want a message that is 24 hours 7, shouting out your message at a very important key point that you are interested in, right? So you can look at Apple, like seriously, who does not know an Apple phone, okay? And yet they only buy into static billboards. Okay, so they've done a series of static billboard executions, and one of them that I'd like to point out here is literally this shot on iPhone. So this picture is taken off an iPhone, and it's good enough with high resolution, with such beautiful effects that it could be put on a billboard immediately. So this really exemplifies how good quality that phone is. And I have put this to a test, okay? So we have been taking pictures just before Christmas is happening, and I can really see the difference between the phones, or even like the older versus the newer models of iPhones, how the photo turned out to be, right? So the most important thing nowadays maybe is just the camera capabilities. So Apple uses only static billboards to showcase this, and they're using this not only in the big cities, but even in the secondary cities, right? You know, besides just the Tokyo, Osaka, even in the secondary cities like Nagoya, they will just still put a strategic billboard to showcase this very important message of them. For our team here, we also have a number of static billboards in Singapore, and our recent client like Lala Move also used this to their very good advantage just before the 11/11, where all the crazy shopping started. So for the next couple of, I would say now we're in the middle of the peak period for major shopping. So 12/12 has ended, Black Monday has ended, maybe Chinese New Year is a good time for even more shopping here. So Lala Move did this to reach out to small businesses who might need help to ramp up their capacity, right? So yeah, here to actually support more delivery for businesses. So here they are choosing some of our best static locations, and they were specifically targeting cross-junction locations and places where there were a lot of businesses too. A third trend that I want to talk about is storytelling, right? So B2C consumers, maybe like for Canon, when you're selling your billboard, selling your products like a camera, it's quite easy, you know, like just now what iPhone did to show the capabilities, or to even like, you know, create like a hobbies kind of thing, right? But B2B brands, how do they use storytelling? Right? Have you all tried storytelling in your campaigns? Yeah, some of our clients have done that, and I would like to show an example of that. But when B2B does storytelling, it's a lot more emotive as well. Okay, so you can see here, right, that they believe that the B2B customers are even more engaged than B2C customers, and this is rightly so, right? Because all these B2B decisions are made with a group of people. It's not made easily, and it's also made with a lot of commitment, right? So B2B brands jumping into this storytelling trend as well. And one of the B2B brands that does this very well is actually SAP, right? So if you talk to any layman on the street, maybe somebody who is not really in the business world, they have no idea what SAP is, okay, right? This is really for big businesses, business decision makers, and people who are in the finance and accounting field. But everybody does know what BMW is, you know, what Fujitsu is, and Porsche is as well. And so this is where SAP is really trying to create a testimonial or even like a success stories based on this kind of famous brands. So you can see them showcasing all these positive testimonials. And in fact, this is part of the social proof that B2B marketers and decision makers are looking for, right? So they just want to know who is running the SAP program and is it good for me as well. So besides just evaluating on the very dry facts, specifications, and so on, it's about social proof, right? Like I am using it too. We have clients in the past like Accenture that also uses this kind of social proof when they do campaigns with us in airports. And this is what we did for Bosch as well in Manila, Philippines, and also in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So again, they created this beautiful graffiti, right? You will assume that all these are hand painted by artists, like what I showed you previously. It is by artists, but it's not exactly hand painted as in by a painter. In fact, this 500 combined 500 square meters of billboards were all done within 48 hours each country, right? So why can it be done within 48 hours? Literally, Bosch used robots to paint this, right? So they were using drones, in fact, to do this. Let me just show you a little clip of what went on. So this layer of storytelling is actually threefold. Bosch created a storyline whereby in Malaysia, they actually use a local celebrity to create the future of transportation. So definitely, right, in Malaysia with all the traffic condition, I would love to see the future of transportation as well to improve all the major traffic jams. So they're creating this future of transportation story here. So this is one layer of the storytelling that they're creating. And the second layer of storytelling was actually in the execution itself, right? So these two gentlemen here are artists, but artists with a robot. So you can see this is the robot that's doing the painting, and it's painting at night and in the daytime. And so these guys, you know, were literally having a beer and sitting on a chair watching the robots paint, right? So this really drives back Bosch tagline of invented for life, you know, how they're making life better and continue to do so. So it's just an amazing execution given like the location they have chosen in these two countries where there were a lot of Bosch products being sold, right? So for example, in Kuala Lumpur, just now you saw is at Jalan Ipoh. These are where all the Hondas, Bunsu, and automotive companies are as well. So the layer of storytelling here is just really fun for everybody to see and experience and reshare again. I've come to the fourth trend of hyper-local advertising, right? So this really brings back to the intrinsic value of outdoor just being out there, right? So nobody can deny this. And it really complements nowadays, because given the COVID situation, a lot of us are actually doing very shorter commutes, right? So instead of going all the way down to the city center to do our usual shopping, right, we might want to shop or eat more in our neighborhood areas. So hyper-local is actually coming up as a very big trend. And this is something that you can look out for when you're deciding your out-of-home locations as well. So some of them are pretty obvious, some of them not so much. So I'm going to jump into some examples right now. Left or right? That's the only choice that McDonald's is giving you. Can you see that? Right? So this is the classic assumptive close. Can't pronounce my words correctly today, right? So there's a McDonald's everywhere, right? Literally right now, if you really close your eyes and think about it, there's a McDonald's just across the road. There's a McDonald's maybe a couple of walks away. But is it really at the top of your mind when you're looking for something to eat, right? And so when McDonald's do this kind of series of advertising, they just even like skip the whole question of what you're going to eat there, right? They're just going to get you there, right? So if you go right, it's 100 meters away. If you go left, it's 200 meters away. See you later. And this is a very classic case of getting people to take immediate action. We have done that for McDonald's as well in Singapore at People's Park area in the heart of Chinatown. And you would think that this is a place where there's so much food, right? You have the mala, hot pot, you have the traditional yong tau hu. There's just so much food options from big restaurants to hawker food. And yet McDonald's like, hey, we're just around the corner. And people who don't want to think so hard, seriously, let's just get a McDonald's. It's something that all of us can agree on, and why not? Point of sales, right? So there's no question about it. It's better to over-invest than to under-invest where your product is actually having high amounts of competition. I mean, can you imagine if I'm a Nike fan, right? So I'm decked out in Nike clothes. I like to buy Nike kits and things like that. And I walk into Queensway thinking that I'm going to get a new pair of Nike shoes. Now, what's the worst thing that could happen to a potential consumer like me, which Nike has spent so much money to nurture me as a fan? The worst thing that can happen is that I walk out with a pair of Adidas shoes, right? So this is really like the black box of marketing. I would think that, brand owners here, direct principals and clients yourself, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Is really to get the point of sales reminder. So it's always better to over-invest than to under-invest, right? So even complementing with all your online channels as well, the locations where your target audience is, for example, here, where you know that there's a lot of sports and athletes that are enthusiasts that like to go, these are also the same type of people that maybe will be into new gadgets or even trying out new brands, right? So even telco companies can advertise at this location, right? Insurance brands, and we are also having a couple of IT brands that's also advertising here, because it's the same type of target audience that you're looking for. And they will be the ones that will be willing to try out new technology or even like trying out a new product range as well. So you want to reach them where they are at. Another good thing about advertising at the point of sales is also to reduce cognitive dissonance, right? So when a consumer maybe make a decision for two products which are very similar, right? Maybe it's just a difference between a color or a couple of dollars difference, like, buying something like a TV or maybe an IT product. So it's not a very expensive item, but maybe something that is high enough that makes people think really hard, like, should I buy this laptop brand versus that laptop brand, right? So this is what they call the cognitive dissonance. The moment you make that decision that I'll buy brand A, you paid that $3,000-4,000 and walk out with it, the idea is that, oh my God, should I have bought brand B instead? We always do that, right? Like, should we not have done that? I bought an iPhone, but maybe I should have gotten the P40 Huawei. It happens. It really, really happens. And this is where advertising again play a very, very big role, especially in terms of outdoor, to remind your target that they have done the right choice by choosing your product, right? So even if your brand is doing very, very well, you should still consider to do this kind of reminder advertisement just to build up the consumer's confidence, right? So like we said, right, in the beginning about using a lot of online platforms and a lot of digital advertising, yes, continue to do that. But also remember, out of sight, out of mind, right? And a classic billboard example like this that we show you is one sure way of making sure that you're in sight. So I've been talking really quite fast right now because I want to deliver as much value as I can to all of you. So feel free to continue to share on the chat board, right? Any kind of questions that you might have, okay? And we'll consolidate and we will reply them at the end of the Q&A session as well. This is another point of sales advertisement that we have, right? When encouraging the MasterCard usage, right, at touristic areas such as in Bali. This is the one that is in the Seminyak area. You can see that there is MasterCard everywhere, including very small reminders that is done as part of the shop signages there. But yet, we still put up big billboards for them, right? So this is a really strong reminder again, right? Like use MasterCard. And everybody has MasterCard in their wallets, right? So it's just a choice of, are you using a MasterCard, a Visa, an Amex, or Union Pay, or whatever card payment, or even right now, fintech options there are. You want to remind them to use it, right? So for me, I use sometimes the fintech payment systems. Sometimes I use my card, sometimes I use my cash. Now, you want to make sure that we always remember to use the payment system that they want, right? So it's very important to put this kind of reminders, even though you have already merchant acquisition and engagement to use that. There's some billboards that are strategically put at this kind of locations to reinforce that as well. Context is key, right? So the location that you are choosing right now can also be customized in a certain level. We have something that is done for the health promotion board, and without doubt, everybody in Singapore speaks English, but yet we can customize the message in a very subtle way to just create more intimacy, create a little more connection, subject to what is happening contextually in the area. So here you have Chinese in the Chinatown area, and also Malay in Geylang Serai, and of course Tamil in Syed Awit Road area. So all these are just very subtle little connection points, right? So if I was a brand like a hawker food or something that I'm trying to feature, because everybody now is talking about our new UNESCO Cultural Heritage Award. So even like if I'm talking about food, I would like to feature some hawker food that maybe is specific to the area, like how I talk about chendol in Geylang Serai, because that's my favorite thing to go for. So that's what outdoor is able to give you, that subtle customization that makes people just feel more connected to that message here. So I'm getting to the last trend already right now, and this is probably something that is most, I would say, important, or something that we don't really emphasize on as much. But you would think that getting a billboard is getting you noticed, right? But this is the year that you want to even amp it up a little bit more. So anything is possible. I'm quite serious about that. And you can look forward to have more fun with that, okay? And I think there'll be a lot more examples that even you can share with me as well, okay? So there are two ways to get yourself even more noticed. Number one, higher creativity. And this is the fun part about it, right? So during this COVID situation here, everybody is really bored and tired and having this kind of lockdown fatigue, right? So some advertisements literally just, use that as the context, get a little bit of humor going on, right? So Twitter is actually featuring a billboard here that everybody can relate to, like, I love my mask, something that is noticeable here. Subway, they did this with VaynerMedia. So they said that they have spent so much money, right, to create this wonderful new product that they could only afford half a billboard, right? So this is really quite interesting as well. People will take notice it and get this on a viral as well. So you can imagine if this is on a bus shelter advertisement where you put it on a big billboard, right? Literally, you can see like maybe even the light tubes and everything. It really show like there's only half of that billboard being bought, right? Have any of you spotted this in Singapore? For my friends and viewers in Singapore, have you spotted this as well? Yeah, so keep a lookout for it, right? If for some of us who have not spotted it yet, right? So it's on a couple of the bus shelters around in Singapore. You can take a look at it. And this is also another one that is done by Lazada, all right? And this is in Indonesia a couple of years ago, but people are still talking about it now because everybody's a critic, okay? Everybody just loves to point out a mistake. So when Lazada did this, where they put an upside down billboard, they did a series of this, and it's in a highly competitive environment where Lazada is competing against people like Shopee, people like Tokopedia, and all the Bilibili. So they just hung an upside down billboard, and everyone's like, oh, look at that. They made a mistake, and not only one person was sharing it, it got viral. Right. In fact, this morning I just received another one that happened in Malaysia where there was some font mistakes, right? So again, caused a viral reshare. So things like that can be really, really interesting, but obviously we have to use it in a clever way as well. So we want to make sure that mistake is a genuine, or we call it genuine non-mistake here. So it's another way of being very bold to get yourself noticed. And when you have a good message that you need to share, you want to multiply it, because at the end of the day, you always remember a nag, right? So maybe our moms or my Chinese teacher, the way she used to nag me, eventually we will get it. Like, hey bro, don't be so careless. Don't be so careless. Eventually at an important point where I must not be careless, I actually was not careless. So a good nag, repetition, reach and frequency is definitely something that you must use to get yourself noticed as well. So Bosch actually bought a series of long-term billboards with us using static media, which have a very simplified logo and just what they stand for. But they actually use digital media after that to showcase 150 streams of the different products across their product range, from consumer to automotive and so on. So this is a really good way for them to balance out their budget and also making sure that it's everywhere. So I've come to the end of my sharing right now, and I'm open for some Q&A. So if anybody got some questions, you can put it out in the chat board here that I'm able to share as well. So one of the questions that I really get quite a lot is out-of-home advertising expensive? I can say no, a resounding no. Right? Even if you ask some of my competitors or other people that's also dealing with out-of-home, it will still be the same answer. And not that we are protecting ourselves, okay? It's not like I'm trying to exaggerate what we are doing here in out-of-home. But if you consider what you're getting, okay, in an out-of-home billboard that is out there 24/7, 365 days, or maybe for that 3 months duration, your message is being sent out there on a repeated basis for people who are going there twice or 3 times a day when they go in and out of work, or maybe they're there for a specific purpose, right? So they will get that message, and it's all not overly targeted. So that's the problem with some of this kind of digital advertising like Facebook, that you only target a very narrow band of audience. And because it's on a programmatic way, you have to keep adjusting the budget, right, to make sure that you get this kind of audience. Okay, so what you are getting in terms of out of home is actually slightly broader, but still targeted, but you make sure you get everybody as well. So it's more inclusive in that way. So if you take that number of impressions and you divide by the budget of the advertising you're putting out, it's really not that expensive, right? So if you're buying a newspaper ad, maybe a half page full color, you think that you're buying it for this Sunday, right? So for example, this is the Sunday before Christmas, right? So you think that, wow, a lot of people will be looking at the newspapers, we are more relaxed, maybe on a Sunday morning, people want to catch up on that. But do you know that there are actually a lot of our competitors out there in the same newspaper? So unless you're buying that front page ad, right, you may or may not guarantee the exposure that you think you might be getting. And most importantly, right, you buy for Sunday, whole of Sunday, it's not 24 hours, right? That newspaper ad will probably just, last you, if you're fortunate, 8 hours. You won't be flipping the Straits Times 24 hours on that day, right? So, when you measure against the budget you're spending on 1 week or 1 day kind of exposure versus a billboard that you're buying for a 3-month period, is actually very, very different, right? So out of home advertising is not expensive. And I speak this on behalf of all of us in out of home, even some of my more expensive uh, competitors. Okay, we have a question for Max. Does an upside down billboard create vibes and viral, not to promote, but I consider creativity? Yes, that's right. Well, Max, you're absolutely right in terms of attention getting. That's what Hollywood said. There's no such thing as good and bad publicity. It has to use in a very subtle and humorous manner. So, may I ask what brand or product you are representing? Okay, so for certain brands, like maybe online platform like Tokopedia or Lazada, they have a more of a cheeky brand persona, right? This would be something that would be more interesting for them because they already have that kind of vibes out there. So it's okay that they take a few punches in that way, right? To get people to relate to them or to find some humor in it. Okay, for certain brands, maybe if they are a little bit more serious, like if I was thinking SIA versus Scoot, right? So you want to take that kind of brand comparison. Maybe it will not be so appropriate for SIA to play a joke like this, but it will be perfectly acceptable for Scoot to do that, or especially Air Asia, right? Because the founder himself, Tony, likes to take in, a couple of jokes on himself as well. So this is kind of perfect for them, right? And people, think it's associated with their brand persona, and they'll even celebrate it, when these kind of mistakes are being made, right? So mistakes are inevitable. We're not that perfect, right? Given even my company name is Perfect Media, right? So brands nowadays have to be a bit flexible to see how we can turn this around, or even like brands are using a lot of context right now to create a messaging that gets people noticed. So I really like that question, right? In terms of creativity versus attention versus actually being able to deliver on the service, that they were advertising about. So you're quite right. Maybe everybody noticed Lazada's upside down ad, but they didn't actually notice what Lazada was selling at that point, right? I think that was the question that you're asking. Great. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to have one more question that I want to share with you from some of my clients as well. And in fact, this is the elephant in the room. Okay, so I'll be very bold here to even share this kind of question here is, how do you track out of home performance? This is a question that all outdoor would like to ask, all agencies would like to ask, and all clients would like to ask as well. So we want to be very clear about out of home. I mean, if seriously every billboard can deliver you a dollar to dollar kind of like CPC that you're talking about, it would be amazing, right? That would be amazing. But you have to get that when an out of home advertisement is out there, there's a brand awareness and a messaging, right? As I said, out of mind, out of sight. Okay, so you want to get this in the sight and in people's mind when they see the advertisement, right? So I'm not trying to skirt around this question, all right? So I will just tell you very straight that there's a lot of out-of-home formats out there. So for smaller, I would say that the bus shelters that you saw earlier is already a common practice right now, that there are cameras installed where they're able to do simple tracking of numbers of people. If this is allowed for some reasons in certain malls that they already announced that this is the tracking area, this kind of cameras can even deliver statistics, right, on the people. Is it a male, is it a female, right, that's passing through that area as well. So they can aggregate some of this kind of statistics about the people that is actually walking within the vicinity of that visual, and to see if there's any eye contact. And all this are actually based on the capabilities of the camera, right? So the camera, the viewable distance is like maybe 30 centimeters or maybe 50 centimeters, or even like 2 meters away. This is what that camera can see, right? So there's a lot of fast speed programs that's able to quickly calculate, right, what is the kind of impressions that are being created as well, right? But for certain big billboards, you know, like some of ours, which is about 100 square meters, you know, that is bigger than some of the houses that we have right now. So a 100 square meters billboard that's so big, that's viewable from like 300 meters away, it will be a bit harder to just use a camera for that. It will be impossible in fact, right? Some of our billboards in Chinatown, right? The brand is so visible, clear from all the way at Cecil Street and Robinson, right? So it will be not practical for us to do that. And what we actually provide is a traffic count and impressions, right? But people who are brand owners here, you know, right? We have some clients here, including Edwin yourself, right? You guys get direct feedback, even from the dealers that is in the area, right? Especially you get a lot more feedback when the competitor actually put up an ad and they'll be like, hey, why are you not supporting us, right? So we have clients that actually get direct feedback from their sales, right? And their dealer feedback that they actually want to have a long-term billboard in these areas to make sure that this is, or what we call the point of sales, that this is the target that they're looking for. So all this kind of outdoor advertisement really goes to support the kind of other educational or maybe your agent outreach that you're doing at the retail shops itself, or maybe on supporting your online advertising, right? So if you have any other questions about how to measure out of home performance, right, I'd be happy to hear that as well. So I'm going to end this off with another question here that just came in as well. So it came in to mention about real-time outdoor buying. Yes, so this is what we call the programmatic out-of-home advertising. And in certain countries, like you mentioned correctly, Max, who's asking this question, right? You can actually select to buy this like special time slot. So let's say you only want to buy the 12 to 2 p.m. time slot. It's actually a real-time buy. Now, this is the theoretical part of it. But how many of them are able to execute this right now is still in a very primary stage, infancy development stage. So if you talk to certain people about this, it can be done, right, depending on that media owner, and it's already happening in Singapore right now, right? So it's not really on a shared platform, like for example, if you're doing programmatic in an online context, you can do it programmatic across like maybe a dozen of mobile games, 300 or 5,000 over websites. It's really like a stock exchange that's going on right now. We call this an ad exchange. It's very established. But in terms of programmatic digital out-of-home advertising, is still in an infancy stage, but it's coming up really fast, right? So we have talked about this for a couple of years, but this is the year of breakthrough, right? Especially with 5G coming up. So you can definitely look forward to more of this kind of executions in the Southeast Asia region, even in Singapore as well. Okay, so we're going to end this off not so fast, all right? So for some people who are still wondering what can they really take away from this sharing that I have, right? I will be sharing 3 immediate tips for you to think about. And I would like to invite you to connect to our online case studies as well. You can scan our QR code. So this is our own QR code that you can go to our website for more interesting case studies, right? And any questions that you have, please send it over to us, or even any marketing idea. It doesn't even need to be in out of home. Okay, so just send a brief off to us, your marketing program or your plans, and let us think about how to get you involved in out of home, right? So leave the thinking to us, okay? We have a team of people here that can support you. So it doesn't even need to be your plan for out of home. Just share it off with us as well, okay? So I'm just going to pause here for 30 seconds for you to take in our contact details. And I'm going to move on to the final part of what you can take home for today's sharing. Someone asked here, Are you including some kind of growth hacking techniques? This is really fun. That's right, Sadani, right? So growth hacking techniques, maybe this is a more fancy word of say what you can take home for today, right? So I'm going to be sharing that in my final slide. And I'll start it off right now, okay? So these are the bonus takeaway that you can execute right now. Number one thing, know your target audience, okay? There was once this fishing competition. A number of fishermen joined a fishing competition to see who can catch the most fish. So when they're awarded to the winner of this competition, the fisherman won not by 10%. You know, it's not like he caught the second and third place caught 10 fish and he caught 11 fish. It was not that, okay? He won by 5 times or 6 times. So the second place was only catching maybe like what, 10 fish? He was actually catching 50 or 60 times more fish. And how does he do that? This 5 times kind of growth, right? And this is what he replied. I don't think like a fisherman. I think like a fish, right? So this is an exact thing about knowing your target audience, okay? So this is where you want to think like the fish. Think about your target audience. How is it that they're interacting, right, at that point of sales location, or they're moving around their home locations, all right, and getting that hyper-local feel that you're having right now. So know your target audience. Do they enjoy that kind of humor? The second tip that you want to take home is that you want to keep it simple and clean. And you think that I'm talking common sense here, right? But you know, when you're given like a 10 square meter billboard or 100 square meter billboard, some people just like to put everything they can into that space, right? So what may look good, right, you know, on your 13-inch computer, or even like some designers are using 24-inch computer screen, is not that, okay? You really want to keep it simple because people have really poor attention span nowadays. So even if you bought like a YouTube advertisement, you know, like, you know, 15 seconds or that 3-second blurb, half of us are not even watching it. I don't know. I usually like get to skip ad as soon as I can, right? So people have to really get everything within that 3 seconds, and you want to keep it clean and simple. So I would say again, it's very obvious, but you want to create that. Be very intentional about using the right fonts, the right size of fonts, and even like the right placements of how you want to put the ad together, right? So we have a lot of tips from here, right? So even when you share with us your artwork, we can also give you some enhancements of that, but you'll be surprised, right? That people are not really thinking that hard when they create an advertisement. They just take the same thing that they're using on the newspaper and from their digital and putting it directly onto a billboard. So you can see the example here right now about high-speed charging and that green bar, right? So if I was the one that was looking at this visual, I would be more panicky. I'll look at it at the red bar. That's when I know I'm running out of battery. Like I need high-speed charging right now. Okay, so this would be a way to also, you know, create that message immediately. And last of all, right, you really want to think out the box. Okay, so this is it's pretty obvious, right? It's time to have a break. And then they just left the billboard half done, right? So there are many, many ways that you can think out the box with your advertisement. It doesn't need to be that complicated or wow, like what Lazada has done, right? So even like putting half a billboard, maybe that would be a bit more adventurous for you. Your brand persona doesn't allow you for that, right? But it's really very simple to think out the box, including with your visuals as well. Okay, so these are 3 bonus tips that you are able to bring forward to your campaign or your advertising at any time. So I hope that this 45 minutes of sharing has been good for all of you, right? And there'll be a free report that will be sent, all right, that we are creating for this as well. So if you would like a copy of this report, please drop me your email and I'll get it sent to you as well. So it will include what I have shared today and also some information about what you can do for 2021. So just feel free to drop in to drop your email off to me as well. Great. We still have more questions that is coming in. Okay. So for those people who are interested to stay on for me to answer a few more questions, I'll be happy to do that. All right. And for those who have stayed with us during this presentation, really thank you very much for your time. As I said, feel free to connect with us anytime. All right. And even if you have no out-of-home advertising campaigns, right, it's totally okay. Right, you can just share with us your marketing plans, or even if you have no plans, right, we can always have a little chat and coffee together to see how you can integrate some of these trends, right, if you do have a plan in future. Okay, right, so drop me off at your email if you'd like a copy of the report.